I'm Matt.
And I'm Whitney, and we believe in miracles. We knew early on that we wanted to have children, and a couple years after we got married, we decided to go ahead and start making a family. And in September of 2014, we welcomed our first son, Stockton Ray. We delivered him at 23 weeks, and he was air flighted to Cook's Hospital from Brownwood Regional Medical Center, and he passed in flight. And so we never saw that being a part of our journey, but we've just grown since then, and very quickly after that found out we were pregnant with Heston. Obviously we were excited, but we had just witnessed the worst thing that could happen, and we're terrified that it would happen again. I was in the emergency room when I was about 6 weeks along with bleeding, and found out that I had a subchorionic hemorrhage. It was small, so they just kept a close eye on me, and that was the first time we were able to see his heartbeat. We couldn't hear it yet, but we were at least able to see it, so that gave us some reassurance that everything was okay. I received shots once a week of progesterone just to try to keep me from going into preterm labor as well. I think it was more stressful for Matt than it was for me.
Every time the phone rang, my heart stopped.
We knew it was a big chance that I would go into preterm labor, so I tried to be very cautious and pay attention to my body. And since it had happened, I was very aware of what could happen. And it was Friday night, and Matt was working the weekend, so I woke up and I was like, I might be having contractions, but I'm not gonna freak out yet. I'm gonna wait. And when we got to the hospital, the nursing staff already knew we were on our way, so they were waiting for us, and they started us on fluids and IVs to try to stop the contractions. Sunday night, I started having contractions again, and when they checked me, I was already at a 5. And so we went from thinking we were fixing to get to go home that morning to we're moving you over to a delivery room, and you'll be delivering within the next few hours. As soon as he was born, we were both able to see him. They held him up. They got him ready and they took him to the NICU, and Matt went with him, and I got to go a couple hours later.
When a baby's born at around 32 to 34 weeks, they typically have what's called RDS, or respiratory distress syndrome. And that's underdeveloped lungs, they have difficulty breathing, and they usually need some form of assistance, whether it be oxygen all the way up to a breathing machine.
The next step, though, that happens when you're early is that you may develop what we call jaundice or hyperbilirubinemia. That's another condition where you have increased breakdown of your red cells. Your liver has to package the waste products of those red cells so that you can eliminate them in your urine or your feces. At first, the liver is overwhelmed because of the increased breakdown, and so we build up a product called bilirubin. People are familiar with that, and that it makes you yellow or jaundiced, and you can see that. It's a very common thing in newborns. The problem in prematures is that it can go at a higher level.
When I first got to see him, it was a little overwhelming because there was, a lot of tubes, a lot of wires. They had him on the heat therapy because his body temperature wasn't regulating yet. We were both scared to death to hold him because he was so small.
Heston was just under 5 pounds. I think he was 4 pounds, 14 ounces. At that size, they're pretty fragile kids, so you've got to keep very close attention on them.
Heston had zero interest in eating. Some days it would take us 45 minutes for him to drink a 2-ounce bottle. I mean, it was
like 30 mils.
So I mean, these little bitty tiny bottles, and it was taking us that long. About the time he finished, it was almost time for him to start again because he had to eat every 3 hours to be able to gain the weight that he needed.
We have to be careful on how we advance the feedings. Heston took the true premature approach and really did not want to feed at all for a while, and so we had to supplement his feedings with feeding him through a feeding tube. Finally took to it and began eating well, and so by the time he was about 12 days of age, he was eating well, just starting to maybe gain a little bit of weight, but doing well there. His jaundice had been cured, his respiratory immaturity had resolved, so he could be discharged home to his parents.
We're going to call everything a success because we made it a lot further than we did the first time, and he was okay. With us going into the hospital on Friday, we were able to get the steroid shots for his lungs to develop. So he was on respiratory therapy for the first 24 hours. It's just been a fighter ever since. The NICU nurses at Shannon are outstanding, and they were just very encouraging for both of us. They could tell if we were having a rough time, and they sat us down and talked us through it. And with the equipment that Children's Miracle Network had, we got to stay here at home, and our families were close by, and our friends could come visit and just let us take a break for a minute and say, hey, this is gonna be okay.
Well, it wasn't long after that Heston had delivered that I was talking with her, and she told me the story of her first child. I know that must have been such an awful experience, and we just wanted to make this experience the polar opposite of that for them. Make it a joyous experience and comfort her in knowing that he was in a good place and that we were going to take good care of her son.
There's nobody in any other hospital that has a fancier isolette or a more efficient isolette or a safer isolette. There's nobody in any other hospital that has a more efficient bilirubin treating machine. Those items are not inexpensive and are very helpful, and the Children's Network has provided those items that we can use. And those are very important for you able to keep the baby here.
For so many people, he's the essence of what a true miracle is, because they saw our struggle with Stockton and our loss and the heartache that not only we felt, but our loved ones felt, because it rattled all of us. Children's Miracle Network gave us a light when there was a lot of darkness that had been around us. You're helping kids just like Heston who start out life fighting, and sometimes their struggle continues and sometimes they can overcome, but no matter what, you're letting them stay at home, and you're letting them be with their parents and their loved ones, and you're letting them be in a community that's full of supporters. So by supporting Children's Miracle Network and sharing our story, we hope that we bring light to someone else's life.
Please support the Children's Miracle Network.
And help a miracle like Heston.